Professor Kingsfield?
I am sorry. Sorry.
Lucky Ford.
I'll take it. Where's Kingsfield?
He hasn't shown up yet.
I figure he got lost on the way to class.
Maybe he pulled an all-nighter.
Great. We've got a midterm tomorrow. Kingsfield's not here to explain the material, and Lucy and Ethel are cracking jokes.
Lighten up, Carter. He's 10 minutes late.
But this chapter isn't like anything we've studied before. Can you make any sense out of it?
Some.
Some. That's the confidence level you want going into a Kingsfield exam.
So that's what sleep is like.
And breakfast. You can actually eat sitting down.
Look at him. We got the final draft of Kingsfield last night, and Hart is already worried about the next issue. Savor it, pal. We got 4 more weeks.
I am worried about this issue. Kingsfield's comments?
Already? Oh, what did he think about my case note?
He liked it.
One thing about Kingsfield, the man has taste. How about the deportation survey?
He liked that, too.
And what about the article on sovereign immunity?
He hated it.
No.
Shallow, muddled, unimaginative?
The guy who wrote it is a Columbia professor. It's not our fault he can't write.
Don't look at me. I said not to use it from the
Oh,
beginning.
just what we need to hear, Harriman.
And what would you like to hear? He's an expert in the field. We can't reject his article. I believe that's how you put it, Hart.
Let's not argue. We have 24 hours to fix it.
I don't know. With all these comments, I'm not sure it's fixable.
Terrific. An issue without a lead article.
It's the shortest issue in law review history. We can use my survey as the lead article.
I'll check with Kingsfield. I'll talk to him when he gets out of class. In the meantime, let's start thinking up alternatives.
What's the point? You'll just reject them.
"40 minutes late and nobody has sent word."
Probably got caught in a traffic jam.
Come on, he lives within walking distance from school.
I don't care where he is. It's irresponsible of him not to be here.
Oh, do you want to tell him that, Carter?
Somebody should. We pay him good money to show up and teach.
What would you like to do, ask for a refund?
There's got to be some explanation.
Maybe he's out on a toot with Nottingham.
Tom?
Mrs. Nottingham?
Yes,
Sorry to disturb you.
that's all right.
I'm in Professor Kingsfield's contracts class. He hasn't shown up yet this morning.
I wouldn't worry. He'll be along shortly.
Are you sure nothing's wrong? I mean, he might be sick or something.
Young man, if something were amiss with Professor Kingsfield, he would have contacted me.
Yes, ma'am. We'll keep waiting.
That's right.
Well, he's an hour and 10 minutes late.
He still has another 45 minutes.
I feel like one of those dogs who waits for his master at a bus stop.
What if something happened to him?
I'd love it. They'd have to cancel the midterm.
Carter, you're disgusting.
Hey, that's the way my mind works. As far as I'm concerned, they should call it off now. You can't test someone on material that hasn't been covered in class.
Why not?
It's not fair.
Is that some common law doctrine? It's not fair?
All right then, Professor, how about we can't be expected to learn material on our own?
Listen, we won't have Kingsfield around to spoon feed us for the next 50 years.
Yeah, I mean, just because you've never had an original thought, Carter, don't project your inadequacies on us.
All I'm saying is that some parts of the law are tougher than others, and breach of contract happens to be a bitch.
It's not that hard to understand. Take material breach.
Like the Maryland school case. You know, the court ruled that a teacher could be fired for missing 5 weeks of school, even though she was sick.
That only constitutes a partial breach.
I beg to differ. I read the material.
Well, maybe if you understood what you'd read.
Maybe if your mother taught you some manners.
You know, we all know you're a jerk.
Come on! This isn't getting us anywhere.
It's the first intelligent thing you've said, Ford. And if you want to waste your time, that's fine. I'm getting the hell out of here.
You're gonna be sorry when Kingsfield hands out that exam tomorrow, Carter.
No sorrier than the rest of you.
Mrs. Nottingham? Mrs. Nottingham?
Oh, Mr. Hart, I didn't hear you come in.
Could I see the professor for a minute? It's urgent. Law review business?
He's not in.
I'll wait.
Well, he didn't come in today.
Not at all? That's odd. You don't suppose that something is... Oh, I'm sure there's a perfectly logical explanation. Oh, don't worry, Mrs. Nottingham. He's bound to be here any minute.
I'm sure you're right.
Well, when he does come in, would you have him contact me at the review? It's very important.
He's not in. Where is he? It doesn't matter. You have to get the issue to the printer in 22 hours.
I say we just fix it and just go ahead.
We can't. Kingsfield might still reject it. Now, what else do we have that's in shape to go?
There's the piece on the exclusionary rule. Kingsfield like that.
Like the area. No practically calls for the end of the Fourth Amendment.
I think it suggests some practical alternatives.
So what else do we have besides the exclusionary rule?
Nothing that's ready to go.
So we either run this article that Kingsfield hates, or this thing on the exclusionary rule?
Which you hate.
Can you get the note ready by tomorrow morning?
I could, but I won't.
Harriman, we need it.
Of course we need it, but you'll disagree with everything I do, and then you'll chop it up. It's not worth my time.
I'll stay out of it, I promise.
I don't know, Hart.
Look, you have my word. Just make it scholarly, smart. Anything but shallow, muddled, unimaginative.
Okay.
Is Professor Kingsfield in?
Do you have an appointment?
Just tell him it's Virginia Whitney.
Oh, Mrs. Whitney, of course. But your luncheon engagement isn't until next week.
Well, I was at the business school. I thought it might be a good time to take a tour of the law school as well.
I'm sorry, Professor Kingsfield is not in.
When do you expect him?
Well, I'm not sure.
Are you, temporary or something?
No. He didn't leave word. Perhaps the dean can see you.
No, I prefer to see the professor. He has some interesting ideas for the grant. The possible grant.
Oh, I know he'll be disappointed. Shall I call Dean Perry?
No, it's all right. I'll go to his office.
Hello? I'd like to report a missing person. Over 2 hours. I know that's not a long time, but I've worked for him for over 30 years, and he's never been as late as a minute. 24 hours? All right, I'll call back. Give me your emergency room.
So what do you think happened to Kingsfield?
As long as he's not teaching one of my classes, I don't care.
That's compassionate of you, Bill.
Hey, listen. I still wake up in the morning in a cold sweat dreaming about mutuality of remedies.
Hey, Bell.
We're in a jam. Do you think you could help clear up some of the material?
Hey, don't you think I have work of my own to do?
We're willing to pay. $5, $10 a piece.
Well, I always like to help out the one else. What's your problem?
What do you remember about breach of contract?
Elementary, Mr. Ford. If you violate the terms of a contract, you are in breach.
Very insightful, Professor. But what about an installment sales contract?
And oral waivers and a collateral estoppel.
Oh, I'm a little rusty. I mean, it's been a year and a half, man.
At least, tell me this. Is the buyer obliged to keep up his payments if the seller skips the delivery?
If this... Maybe I should check out the material and then...
Yeah, maybe I should check out someone else.
Hey, come on, man. $2 a head and I'm all yours.
Mrs. Samuels, I can't substitute for Professor Kingsfield.
We just need some minor clarifications on breach of contract, and it shouldn't take much time.
Well, I'd like to help you, but I make it a policy never to step into another professor's territory, especially Professor Kingsfield.
I would never ask if it weren't such an unusual circumstance.
You are in a difficult situation, but I'm sure you haven't exhausted all your possibilities.
It sounds like something he would say.
I'm going to accept that as a compliment. Good day.
The law school is a diverse institution, and I might add that students are immersed in the study of a discipline, not merely the pursuit of wealth.
Are you saying the graduates of this law school are not interested in making money?
Well, most of them make a comfortable living, but you must admit they can't compare with the powerhouses of the Fortune 500. That's why we hoped you'd see fit to honor us with the foundation grant.
Oh, just how are you planning to spend our grant money, Dean Perry?
Oh, we have so many needs: equipment, building, maintenance, a library.
Perhaps you could purchase beepers to keep track of errant professors.
Oh, please, don't be upset about Professor Kingsfield. If he had known that you were visiting us today...
Yeah, that's the point. I wanted to see the law school on a typical day without advance notice. I much prefer to see it in its natural state, which apparently is somewhat sloppy.
Oh, I'd like to show you something the business school cannot match. Our law review. The finest minds among our students working together to publish the most highly regarded legal journal in the country.
I would like to see that.
Here you go, Hart, the outline for the note.
Good job, Harriman. God, less than 2 hours.
How long do you think it'll take to write?
I should finish by midnight.
Unbelievable. A developments note in less than 24 hours.
Well, a lot of work has been done.
In a normally competitive atmosphere, the students learn to work with each other.
Harriman, you came out for giving illegally obtained evidence to grand juries. You know, we have been through this. If you cannot use the evidence to convict someone, what is the point in using it to indict?
Go back to criminal procedure, Hart. The grand jury decides who should be charged, not convicted. I thought you said I could do this my own way.
I did, but I didn't think you'd be going off.
Of course, there's a healthy
Hart,
give and take between the students.
You know what you want, then do it yourself.
Oh, that is a mature attitude.
How mature is it to turn down a note because it doesn't toe the James Hart party line? You know, things would go a lot smoother around here if you wouldn't muck up our work.
Oh, if it were up to you, we'd be publishing dogmatic drivel. Now, someone has to write
Perhaps
this
we should
note
go
for
to the
rules
faculty
article.
dining room. I don't want to lose the reservation.
Yes, I think that's a wonderful idea.
It's just that you take certain positions I can't accept.
And you take certain positions that I can't accept.
One of you is going to have to give.
Maybe not.
Hart, you can't have it both ways. It's a law.
There's still my survey.
We'll do it as a debate.
Harriman will write down her arguments. I will write down mine. We will combine them in the note with a few introductory sentences.
And you won't cut mine no matter how offended you are?
Not a word.
Who decides what goes where?
We both will. Or we'll alternate. It doesn't matter. Don't you see? Both points of view are represented.
Okay, I'll do it.
We'll do it.
Oh, I wish someone would explain anticipatory breach to me.
It's not that hard. When it becomes clear that one party will breach the contract, the other party doesn't have to go through with the promise.
Well, that's what I thought. Then how do you explain the ruling in the Ritter case?
I guess I can't. Maybe it's wrong.
Great. What if it's right?
Oh, my goodness. Why are you wasting your time on anticipatory breach?
Carter, it kind of violates our principles to go into an exam unprepared.
Don't worry, it won't be on the exam. He'd never test us on material that hasn't been covered in class.
But what makes you so sure?
1, common sense.
Rejected.
2, normal standards of decency.
We're still waiting to hear number 1.
3, I think I can talk him out of it.
Earth to Carter. Earth to Carter.
No, I thought it through. Kingsfield is an intelligent man who listens to reason.
Sure.
You lay it out properly for him, he'll go along.
What's your argument?
Forget it, Ford. I thought this went up all by my lonesome, and Kingsfield's gonna hear it first from yours truly.
Carter. Carter, you have to tell us. If this chapter isn't on the exam, we're wasting our time. We should be studying something else.
Right. Like damages or conditions precedent. The way I am.
Oh, the guy is a lowlife.
But what if he's right? I mean, what if we are wasting our time?
What if he's wrong and Kingsfield laughs in his face?
Or worse.
Worse? What could be worse than Kingsfield laughing in your face?
How about Kingsfield laughing at your exam?
Hey, Soloway, we are trying to study here.
It's the middle of the afternoon. This is the lounge. I am lounging.
Soloway, don't you have some work to do?
I was up for 3 days straight. I blew my gaskets. I decided that I need a reward. I deserve a reward. The afternoon movie.
Okay, let's get back to the Ritter case.
Soloway.
The major's telling the truth. If you ain't up...
The Ritter case. Tricky stuff.
You remember it?
Sure. The defendant was supposed to supply building materials, but refused when he found out that the plaintiff was a bad credit risk.
Exactly.
And the court held for the plaintiff. They said that just because it looked like he wouldn't perform did not mean for sure he wouldn't perform.
Right, but why should the defendant risk his shirt on a bad credit risk?
Because you could never conduct business otherwise. If the defendant wanted to protect himself, he could always refuse to extend the plaintiff further credit or require a bond.
This is bad. Mighty bad.
Soloway, we have a midterm tomorrow. Do you think you could help clear up a few things?
I'm sorry, too.
Sure.
Oh, I wasn't talking about her.
Is everything in this building painted beige?
Cosmetics are a low priority with us, Mrs. Whitney.
Oh, it seems so stuffy after the business school. I mean, those people over there are really on the move.
Well, business tends to be ever-changing. In the law school, we revere tradition.
Yes, that's why I was so eager to see the vaunted Professor Kingsfield. But apparently, his absences are part of your tradition.
I was just about to check on him. Excuse me, I won't be a moment.
I know you need to speak to him, Judge Dennison.
Nottingham, where is he?
Wait a minute, can't you? Not you, Judge.
A very important donor is getting extremely impatient.
I understand, Your Honor. Will you hold, please? Professor Kingsfield's office, will you hold? Dean Perry, what do you want?
I want Charles Kingsfield.
I don't know where he is.
What do you mean you don't know where he is?
I mean, I don't know.
Damn it, Nottingham, it's your job to keep tabs on the man.
Dean Perry, I assure you, I've done everything but call out the bloodhounds.
You don't understand. I need Kingsfield. The school needs Kingsfield.
Everybody needs him. You need him. Mrs. Whitney needs him. Mr. Hart needs him. Judge Dennison needs him. Judge Dennison. Judge Dennison?
You find him, Nottingham.
Judge Dennison?
Meanwhile, I'll do my
Judge
best.
Dennison?
Stall Mrs.
Judge
Whitney.
Dennison? Oh, my gosh. Judge Dennison? Judge Dennison?
Margaret, I know. If it's possible, could you have lunch with me today?
Charles?
I'm sorry I'm late, but it was short notice, and has been quite a day on campus, as you must have guessed. So, how was your day?
Well, I've managed to pass the time. I've browsed, fretted about the school, made a few purchases.
For me? How wonderful. You browse exceedingly well, Professor.
Well, I've noticed your fondness for Miss Austen's work. I trust you will regard this as hush money. The price of your silence.
First edition of Jane Austen is quite a bribe, Professor.
Tell me, Margaret, do you always get up that early?
Only when I jog. In that case, I don't understand what you're worried about. Isn't this exactly what you intended?
I had not expected Mrs. Whitney to make a surprise appearance, for one thing.
Well, you couldn't account for everything, Charles.
No, but my absence was meant as an academic maneuver to instruct the students, not to undermine the school and create chaos. Perhaps I should go back right now.
Well, it's up to you, but any appearance on campus would ruin your plan. Charles, There is one other matter.
I know. Nottingham.
Is it absolutely necessary to keep her in the dark?
Nottingham is utterly incapable of concealing the truth from a law student or from anyone else. I'm afraid in her case I had no choice. However, I shall do my best to make it up to her.
Oh, I've got to get going. I have a class. So how are you going to spend the rest of your day?
Well, I think I'll begin by going back and watching those young people hurl themselves against the cement.
And in that case, you fall back on Victoria Cola and Coke and anticipatory renunciation. This is also covered in the second restatement, Williston, and the Uniform Commercial Code. Now,
Soloway, what the hell are you talking about?
anticipatory renunciation as a defense against breach of contract.
Do you want to bring it down to our level?
That's what I thought I was doing. Okay, look. In the simplest terms, a renunciation must deal with the entire performance or else it does not discharge the promisee.
Uh-huh.
And for a refusal to constitute a renunciation, it must be unequivocal and distinct and be acted upon as such by the promisee.
Soloway, you are just being too theoretical for us. We need an example to understand this material.
Take an installment sales contract where the seller makes 3 deliveries and misses the 4th. Can the buyer terminate the contract?
Well, can he?
It depends on the language and the intent and the past performances and a whole set of other things.
Nice try, Rose.
Thanks.
See? That wasn't so hard, now was it? Okay, now let's move on to the Crawford case and change of circumstance.
Okay, that's it.
What's wrong?
He is destroying my confidence.
Give him a chance. He's never talked before.
With every passing minute, I'm saying to myself, I'm stupid. I'm a waste. So I'm going to walk out of this room before I have to walk out of this school.
Tina!
You think that was hard? Wait until we get to waivers and modifications.
Oh, Professor Tyler.
Oh, yes, Mrs. Nottingham. What may I do for you?
Sorry to disturb you.
Not at all, Mrs. Nottingham. What may I do for you?
Have you seen Professor Kingsfield?
Why, is there something the matter?
He hasn't been in today. He missed his class. He hasn't called. I thought you might know where he is.
Well, have you tried him at home?
Constantly. He doesn't answer. I asked his neighbor to check on him, but he said he hadn't been in.
Well, I wouldn't worry, Mrs. Nottingham. I'm sure there's a good explanation.
I haven't known him that long. He's never missed a class, ever since I can remember. And he always tells me where he is.
Poor dear, you've been worried sick, haven't you?
I've called the police, fire department, all the hospitals.
Mrs. Nottingham, I do know where he is, and he's fine. He just wanted to take the day off.
Why didn't he tell me?
Well, I don't know, but I'm sure he has his reasons.
I need to speak to him. There are important matters that need his attention.
I'm sorry. He swore me to secrecy.
Well, I see. Well, I'm glad to hear he's okay. Give him my regards when you see him, huh?
Early dinner?
Lunch.
How's it going?
So-so.
That's a lot of material. For one day, it's more than I expected.
And we're covering the same ground. We may not finish in time, Hart, even if we both pull all-nighters.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry. It's my name on the masthead. I'm the one they'll crucify.
I take as much pride in the review as you do, Hart. I'm still number 2 person. If we publish a bad issue, it reflects badly on me.
Then why are you always so sullen? Seems like you're just going through the motions.
There's not much point in making suggestions if you shoot down everything I say.
Maybe it's time we start pulling in the same direction.
I agree.
Well, if we're going to finish, we're going to have to divide up the work. That means it'll be part yours and part mine. So you take grand juries, arrests, and convictions, and I'll take...
That doesn't make any sense.
Oh, well, that lasted for a while.
It's very simple, Hart. One of us should take the type of evidence that could be excluded, like confessions or weapons, and the other should take the proceedings that would be excluded, like trials and grand juries.
It's a good idea.
Thanks.
I'll
take confessions.
You can have it for a bite of your sandwich. Breakfast.
See? We can cooperate.
Mm-hmm. I'd still rather have it my way.
Oh, anyone want some antacid?
Would you take it easy with that stuff?
Tell it to my ulcer.
I'm so tired of breach of contract.
We will get it.
No, I'm starting to get angry.
At what?
At Kingsfield. Carter has a point. It's his job to explain it to us. He can't just miss class like that and expect us to learn breach of contract on our own.
You know, we're not totally helpless.
How long is it now that we've been trying to understand this material, huh?
We are on our 14th hour.
And we haven't even touched conditions or damages.
We don't even have a handle on it. Oh, boy, I'd like to stick it to Kingsfield.
Yeah, what do you want to do? Put him on trial?
He's in breach of his contract.
I'm afraid he'd disagree.
He can't. He didn't show up for class.
That's not a material breach.
He was obligated to be there, wasn't he?
Yes, but missing one day of class? That's only a partial breach.
Wait a minute. So let's say it is a partial breach. He still can't test us on that material, can he?
Sure he can. When we enrolled, we agreed to meet certain conditions. Just because he missed one day of class doesn't mean all bets are off.
The installment sales case.
Spalding versus Richard, exactly!
What are you talking about?
Don't you get it? We have to take this exam.
But why? He was in breach of contract. You said so yourself.
It's only a partial breach, and we have other alternatives.
What?
We can ask for credit on our tuition or demand that Kingsfield give a makeup class. But, we agreed to take all the exams, and we still have to honor that promise.
Simpson versus Hyde and the casualty insurance case.
By God, she's got it! I think she's got it!
But wait, let's say I argue like Carter. He didn't show up today, he may not show up tomorrow, and I try to use that as my excuse not to study.
An anticipatory breach, eh?
Fabulous. I'm so happy.
How do you think they're coming along?
Should we stop in?
Yeah. Maybe we can mop up the blood.
Wait a minute. I thought we agreed confessions would come next.
Hart, we talked about this. It's grand juries. I still don't understand what took you so long.
Hey, you had the easier part.
Hardly. I would have done yours in half the time.
You two need a referee or anything?
For what?
Your collaboration? Before you collaborate each other?
What are you talking
Later,
about?
Stouts. Okay, next, a statement in the absence of counsel. Hey, Howard, aren't you going to read it? No, I'm sure she did a good job.
Well, what about proofreading?
We'll leave that to you two.
Oh, hey, wait a second.
Look, we spent the whole day writing it. You can spend the next few hours going over it. What's next?
Illegal wiretaps.
Hart, don't you think you should check it over?
Yeah. Well, that's it. Here. We will be out getting something to eat. Where to?
It's up to you.
Hey, I don't blame them. I don't believe it either.
I feel like Hawkeye after the Korean War.
I think Kingsfield may have done us a real favor. He put us under so much time pressure, we had to cooperate.
You know something, Hart? That article he hated wasn't that bad.
You don't think he knew this would happen?
Well, he made sure he wasn't around to answer any questions.
Oh, that sneaky son of a gun.
Hello? Mrs. Whitney, please. Professor Charles Kingsfield. Hello, Mrs. Whitney. I understand you were at the school today and I missed you. I'm sorry about that. It was unavoidable. Mrs. Whitney, how about a little supper this evening? Yes. Good morning, Nottingham.
Good morning, sir.
Will you please return these to Mr. Hart and tell him the note on the exclusionary rule is first rate.
Professor,
Yes, Nottingham?
I don't know where you were yesterday, sir, or why, nor do I care. But I think you should know that you put me through extreme anguish. And if you should decide to play hooky again, I wish that you would be polite enough to notify me in advance.
Nottingham, I appreciate that my absence yesterday must have caused you considerable distress. I apologize. Oh, there's some correspondence on my desk, and I would appreciate it if you would please have it typed by the time I get back from class.
Appreciate if you have it typed before I get back from class.
Professor?
Mr.
Carter.
Proceed, Mr. Carter.
Are we going to be tested on the material from yesterday?
Of course.
With all due respect, sir, we have a contract with you. Now, our job is to prepare for class and take the exams. Yours is to teach. And since you missed yesterday's class, we don't have to take the exam.
I see. So, according to you, I am in breach of contract with you.
That is correct.
Thus relieving you of your burdensome obligations to take the exam. Any comments? Mr. Ford.
At most, you committed a partial breach, meaning we still have to take the exam.
Would you care to cite any precedent in the matter, Mr. Ford?
The Ritter case and Eaton versus Pennsylvania.
Uh-huh. But am I in breach of contract? Even in part?
Your contract is to teach, Professor Kingsfield.
Yes.
And since we used your absence to understand breach of contract, I don't believe that we have a case.
Quite correct, Mrs. Samuels. My contract is to teach. There are many ways to illuminate a subject, just as there are many ways to perform a contract. Lecturing is only one way of teaching. Sometimes other approaches can be equally effective. Perhaps when you become a lawyer, you'll be less inclined to scream breach of contract and rush into a lawsuit that'll drain the court's time, the resources of your client, and your inconsiderable reputation.
We have a right to know where you were yesterday.
Mr. Carter, the question is not where I was yesterday or what I was doing yesterday, but what you were doing. But for those of you who failed to grasp yesterday's lesson, there will be a review session for your benefit at the end of the term. Please.
Morning, Charles.
Hello, Lloyd.
I hope you enjoyed yourself yesterday. I spent the day entertaining Mrs. Virginia Whitney.
So I understand, yes.
And not in vain, I might add. I just spoke to her foundation director. We got the grant.
That's good.
Yes. Yes, it is. No thanks to you, Charles.